Purpose-driven leaders always create what we most needed in our lives. And my client, Anna Liljenwall, is no different. In this episode, you'll learn the importance of integration, as well as 3 questions to ask yourself that will help you create products, services, and offers that are 100% aligned with your purpose. Anna is a life coach that specializes in mental health and recovery. She worked in the mental health field for 7 years in a variety of settings before branching off and starting her coaching practice. Her personal battles with mental health and addiction were the sparks that set her on the path of recovery, or better said, on the path to discovery. Anna is a yoga instructor, Reiki master, and co-host of the new podcast called Healing Hour. She is the co-creator of Mindfully Restored Retreats, a series of retreats that are offered to the mental health community, and she helps her clients transform their pain into power, and she hopes to normalize the conversation around mental health and addiction. This conversation is part of my special 10-episode client feature where I'm featuring incredible clients who inspire me. If you're interested in working with me, a great place to start would be my Unleashed Unapologetic training, which is the same training that Anna is in. Head to rubyfremont.com/unleashed and sign up. Today's episode is sponsored by the Mayfair Hotel and Eve American Bistro in downtown LA, home of my annual 3-day event, Amplified Soul Live. The 2019 event takes place in February. For info and tickets, head to rubyfremont.com/ASL. Now it is time to continue this 10-episode client feature with Anna Liljenwall. I don't want to massacre that last name. It's Liljenwall. Welcome to today's Thought Leader, where I'm challenging you to rise up, speak up, and create a movement. I'm your host, Ruby Fremont, and I'm here as a catalyst for you, the new generation of thought leaders. Join me every week as I dive into raw and real conversations that will help you amplify your presence, influence, and impact. Hey, thought leaders, I am back with another incredible client who inspires me. This special 10-episode client feature has been so insightful for me and super exciting just to be able to present my amazing clients to the world, because their missions are so important. And together I just feel like we can rise so much higher than we do as individuals. So Anna, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to be here.
And Anna, something that was news to me is you just launched your own podcast called The Healing Hour.
Yeah. So, we're doing a monthly podcast right now, and it's my friend Jimmy, who his platform was all about talking about grief. He lost his mom to cancer almost 2 years ago. This Christmas, he lost her on Christmas Day almost 2 years ago, and we came together and we really wanted to just create a platform where we can have the difficult conversations about things that we all go through as humans, and just to kind of promote vulnerability. And we've been friends for a long time. We've always had these really special conversations and a really special connection as friends, but we just decided to come together and do this. And it's been really amazing getting feedback from people just thanking us for opening up in the way that we have, especially I think grief. A lot of people are talking about mental health and trauma right now, but him, especially with the aspect of grief, has just been really insightful for me, I know, especially. Mm-hmm. And then for a lot of people who are following and listening along with our journey right now.
What an amazing branch to add to your current mission. And it's such a great topic to talk about, especially in today's day and age when I feel like people are erupting, there's like everything that's going on in our world right now has created this eruption with people really feeling things at a high degree. So to have a space, a podcast where you talk about grief and some of the stuff that like people are afraid to talk about. And this is very much your mission, right, Anna? Like you mm-hmm. talk about a lot of the stuff that people don't really talk about. So tell us more about your mission.
So my mission is just, it really centers from my experience with mental health. And I've suffered with mental health issues since I was about 14, 15, eating disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder. And I went into treatment when I was 20. And for a 20-year-old to kind of have to like completely restructure their life, it felt really lonely.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, at 2021, all my friends were off partying and traveling the world. And I was just, like my life completely fell apart. And so I really had to dive into certain practices, like mind, body, spirit, yoga, meditation, kind of all of those things to find community, because my peers were off doing things that I wasn't doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so my mission really has been to normalize the conversation about mental health. All of us can relate to struggling in some way or know somebody who's struggling. And I just think it's really important to be vulnerable and transparent about these things that so many of us go through. So my mission is really to help people get to where they want to be, to not feel ashamed, to not feel alone, and just to continue showing up as myself and do the work that I know I still need to do. So it's just really like this nice two-way street. I feel like with my mission, I get to help people, and then I just get to continue growing and deepening my own practice and getting to know myself on these really deep, intimate levels that, it's been yucky at some
Mm-hmm.
points, but it's been amazing. And I just want to show people that, yes, sometimes looking in the mirror and facing all the things that we don't want to face, like that sucks. It really fucking sucks, actually.
Yeah.
But it's so worth it. And the things that you get from it are, just priceless. And I feel like a lot of people just feel so much dread when they think of having to face all those things because they don't know what the other side is like.
Right.
So sharing my story and promoting recovery and trying to just promote hope has been, it's just been incredible.
Yeah. Oh, and it's such important work. Mental health is something that is talked about more now than it was before. But I love how you said normalizing the conversation, because I think that there's still so much shame and guilt around those conversations. Like for someone to share, they feel that stigma and they feel that shame. And it's great that we have things like International Mental Health Day, where people can speak up, or Bell Let's Talk. But when does it become normal for us to let's just talk about it now? I
Yeah.
have so many entrepreneurial friends who go through these things behind closed doors, and we talk about our anxiety. And I'm more public about mine for that reason. Is there's an absurd amount of people who are going through this alone. So for
Yeah.
you to be able to create a space for people to not only feel inspired to share, but feel welcomed, that's really crucial, because I feel like that's what's missing. And you have experience working in the mental health field. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So, when I got out of treatment, part of my get well job, they always say get like a light, easy get well job and,
Mm-hmm.
go volunteer somewhere at light and easy and fun. And I started volunteering at a psychiatric hospital.
Okay, because that's light and easy.
Yeah. I just felt so pulled. Like I felt so drawn to the field. I knew immediately that I wanted to transform my experience into purpose. And, I wanted to show people that it does get better. And so I was like, light and easy, nah, I'm good. And I started volunteering at the psychiatric hospital, and that was almost 8 years ago. And so the last 8 years, 7 years actually, I've been working in the mental health field, and I've worked in detox, residential, substance abuse, eating disorder, outpatient offices, and I've been in this like clinical world.
Mm-hmm.
I had plans to go for my master's and to be a therapist and just to walk the paved path, right? The easy
Mm-hmm.
path. And I think that the clinical world really serves its purpose. But then in the last year, I took a sharp right turn and went for coaching, because I feel like there's so many people going that route that I wanted to do something different, and I wanted to do something that allowed me the freedom to create.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like there's so much space with coaching. There's so much room to create. And for me specifically, what I realized was missing in the field was the emphasis on aftercare.
Mm-hmm.
So anyone who goes through recovery knows that, it's a lot of work in the beginning, but then there's a lot of work after.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's not enough emphasis on that aftercare portion, where what do you need to integrate, and it's different for everybody, but what do you need to integrate into your life to maintain and sustain your recovery, but then also to keep growing so that you don't stay stagnant.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just, I've been kind of incorporating the two, and now really just trying to focus on doing coaching full time.
Yeah. And I love that you focus on the integration piece, because that's something that, I mean, I've ranted on about in the personal development space. I think that there's a lot of people teaching a lot of tools, but not enough work is being done around integrating and actually pulling it into your being and like learning how to then live from this space.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm so happy to hear that you're doing this for people, and that you're combining what you know in the mental health field and fusing it with coaching, which is very, very proactive. Now, you do some pretty incredible retreats, which I've been dying to talk to you about. They're called the Mindfully Restored Retreats, and
Mm-hmm.
these are retreats that you offer to the mental health community, which, I mean, I've never even heard of such a thing.
Yeah. So when I was housebound for a year with agoraphobia before I went into treatment, and that was really the darkest moments of my life, but also very much the catalyst to recovery. And I started practicing yoga and meditation while I was housebound. And of course, this was me studying, ordering books on Amazon, trying to teach myself. And all those tools became so valuable to me in treatment, and then also in the integration process. And so what I wanted to create were retreats that are mental health friendly, because when I was really struggling and my anxiety was awful, and especially with OCD, and I was still struggling not to do compulsions and all that stuff, I didn't feel safe to walk into any kind of space. I couldn't walk in with my, PTSD kind of like all at the surface into a regular yoga studio, and because that person probably wasn't going to know how to hold that space for me.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to create these retreats. They're not all yoga based. A lot of them are just kind of focusing on nature, getting disconnected from our lives. And we just started them. I co-create these retreats with a friend of mine, and it's just come as you are. It's okay. Just remove the mask, and we're all there to support each other, and everybody's walking in with their stuff. And I wanted to make it accessible to the mental health community, because it was something that I really needed back, way back when. And I held myself back from going because I was too afraid of the judgment. I was like, what if I'm triggered and I'm stuck and I'm having, I'm having an episode, I guess, for lack of a better word. And what is this person going to do? How is she going to help me? And how am I going to express that to people? And I feel like everybody needs retreats, but I felt like somebody who's really suffering from mental health and addictions and all these things, and they're working to just keep bettering their lives. What better way to do that than to give them an opportunity to invite them to come out, away from society, get connected to a community of people that actually really understands them and what they go through. And be able to support them, because there's actually like the experience, and then there's the knowledge, and then there's the community aspect of it. So, I mean, we're really proud of it. I know I'm really proud of it. And I've just been trying to create trying to put myself back, in different stages of my life and in my recovery, and asking myself, like, well, what did I need? What would have really helped me then? And what is not being done now that I can do?
Yeah. So, thought leaders, this is really, really key what Anna just mentioned. So, we often create what we most needed. And I'll repeat that. We often create what we most needed. A lot of people's purposes stem from their story. Your mess is your message. And Anna has created a vision, a purpose out of her story. So would you mind going through those questions again, like that process of going back and figuring out what you needed, and then that's how you created what you have now?
So just repeat it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because those questions are great questions.
Oh yeah. So I just really try to go back and think, what did I need?
Hmm.
What is not being offered right now? How can I, and of course, how can I be of service to the community that I'm serving? But I feel like what makes me feel the most fulfilled in my work is is being able to put myself in the shoes of the people that are where I used to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what a, I mean, not only is it a gift to others, but it's also feels like such a gift to yourself because you're creating what it is that you most needed, and you get to facilitate that for others, which is incredible. Um, Now, I know when we first met, um, you weren't feeling as free to
Yeah.
share your message.
Mm-hmm.
Um, to everyone listening, I just want to let you know how much I honor Anna in this moment for showing up the way she's showing up. Because, I mean, to think what a few months ago you weren't, I mean, I don't even know what the word would be. You can tell me, but you were feeling a certain way about sharing your message, which really held you back. So why don't you rewind and tell us what this journey of like bringing your purpose to light has been like?
So I've known what I've wanted to do. I just didn't believe that I was capable of doing it. And I
Mm,
didn't believe in the validity of my own and my own validation of my experience.
mm,
So I kind of had, and I think we talked about this in in depth of, you know, well, I feel like maybe I need degrees for people to take me seriously, and
mm,
I need these things, and because I was coming from this, I was stepping out of the clinical world, and it's been really amazing to just, I mean, I think after the first time that we spoke, I just had this week of like, screw it. I'm just going to like follow the advice and I'm going to jump all in. And from there, I just feel like it's been this amazing, I don't want to say like snowball, but kind of like it's this snowball effect
mm-hmm,
um, of, of having people feeling connected to people. I wasn't feeling connected to people before because I was really afraid to, I think it was, I could write things, but it was like speaking was
mm,
very difficult for me.
mm-hmm.
And I guess for me, sometimes I have this disconnect of like writing something feels a little bit more anonymous and not so like I don't feel so seen.
Yeah.
But when I started really showing up, making videos, so it was like my face with my mission and my words, I was scared shitless.
Mm-hmm.
but but it's been so incredible. I've never felt more connected to who I am, to my mission, to my community, to not only the community that has helped me get to where I am, because it's really helped with that as well, but then the community of people that I'm serving, of course. So
Mm-hmm.
um, I don't really know how to put the experience of the last couple of months into words other than like this beautiful chaos, which sounds so like it sounds like a 2004 emo song.
Yeah. I think it might have been.
I think it might, yeah, maybe that might be, might have been a song, but yeah. So I mean, I feel so free, and I feel, some self doubt and fears come up, but I feel like that's true for anyone, especially as each week I make an intention to do something that's out of my comfort zone, whether it's completely related to my business or not, just to keep that momentum going. And I'm just blown away by how much has happened.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, it's just been incredible. And I mean, yeah, I don't have words.
I mean, what from the outside and what I've witnessed in you is like, if I visualize it, it's like you taking step after step after step to go after what you want, when before you felt it was almost like you were paralyzed, but you paralyzed yourself
Mm-hmm.
with the with questioning, do I need a degree? Are people actually going to take me seriously? And this is like a legit um, fear that so many people with purpose have. There are so many people who are sitting on their purposes right now who are probably listening to our conversation. There are so many people who know what their purpose is, but they are afraid to take action on it, right? Because they felt like you at one point, or maybe
Mm-hmm.
they feel scared of judgment. They feel scared of being seen as an imposter, of not knowing enough, of not being enough, of all this shit. So to those people, what can you say that you have learned through this experience of like really putting yourself out there and challenging yourself to be outside your comfort zone every single week? Like, what have you learned from this process?
So much, but the first thing that comes to my mind, and I don't know if this will resonate with anybody, but it's been crucial for me,
Mm,
um, is that my brain at least tends to do very black and white thinking. Like it's either going to be perfect or it's going to be disaster. And so part of that feeling paralyzed was I'm afraid to step into this new chapter or this new role because it's either going to be perfect or it's going to be awful and I'm not going to be successful. And it's like this just super black and white thinking.
mm-hmm,
And what I realized is that it often, most of the time, it falls somewhere in between. And in that gray area is where the magic happens. Because if it was perfect, I wouldn't keep learning more. I wouldn't strive to get better. I wouldn't have kind of feedback. I need to fall somewhere in the middle. And that's often where we fall. So it's taken so much pressure off of me just to remind myself of that, you know, right before I push post or right before I start recording something that feels vulnerable, that feels scary.
mm-hmm.
And a big thing for me too is that like in the worst case scenario, I learn from it and I
Yeah.
get better. And I have I have coaches, I have people who that I reach out to. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, of course, like in your training, like I can reach out to a group of people and just say, this is, you know, what's going on. And this is kind of where I'm stuck. And that's what I've learned the most
Mm-hmm.
from this process, to be honest. And I don't know if that'll resonate with anybody else, but just kind of it takes the fear out of it. And my mom's always told me all you need is like 10 seconds of bravery. So whenever I feel like stuck before I post something or before I'm about to do something, I think of that and then I think, shit, all I need is 10 seconds of bravery, and I do it and then I just release it. Um and that's been helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also taken so much pressure off of the need to be liked,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because when somebody says something negative back or they give me any kind of feedback, whether, you know, it's negative or just or not, because sometimes in our brain, as long as it's not like you're perfect, it's like
Mm-hmm.
falls in that weird box. But yeah, I kind of lost where I was going with that because I feel
That's
like
all
I'm
right.
ranting about it.
I mean, you know, it's so many people, we often live in this world where we try and make everything so linear, like it's either
Mhm.
black or white, and we don't really live in the gray area.
Right.
So for you to have that insight, I can see how that's super powerful, um, because it just opens up this whole other way of seeing things. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
For those who are still hesitating to press record or to press enter on the post, or to, you know, take that little piece of action that's going to put themselves and their message out there, what do you have to say to them?
I would say that if you're uncomfortable or unhappy with where you are in that stagnant place and because there's something you're not reaching for, wouldn't you, I guess it's more of a question, like, wouldn't you rather be uncomfortable or unhappy because you tried to do something? You tried to step out of your comfort zone. You reached for the dreams and the hopes and the goals that you have.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's something that has been super powerful to me. It's like, if I'm going to be uncomfortable, like at least let it be fucking worth it. Like at least let
Mm-hmm.
it be because I'm doing something to get closer to my goal.
Yeah.
And instead of sitting in this place of fear and doubt and then beating myself up because I'm not taking any steps.
Mm, yeah. I love that. Why not just make it fucking worth it?
Exactly. If you're going to feel like shit, like at least let it be because like for a good reason.
Yeah. And the reality is um the shit we feel while we're hesitating, I mean, in my experience, has always been worse than the shit that I feel from stepping into that zone of discomfort. Because once you step into that zone of discomfort, you take an action that you normally wouldn't have done, and you create an experience for yourself that you haven't yet experienced, which opens you to experiencing something different. So it's super powerful to do that. And I love, again, like, I think this should be a challenge for all our listeners, like you said earlier, doing something that takes you out of your comfort zone every single week. Like, how powerful is that if you just committed to doing that every week from this point forward? um, your life would completely change in a span of a month.
Yeah. It really
Yeah.
does. I mean, it's like forming a habit, right? Like if
Mhm.
it's just practice. And now it's like my favorite part of my practice, you know, because I'm just like, okay, well, what am I going to do this week? And I know it's just going to get me closer to where I need to be. And that, I mean, it's not always perfect. Like there, I
Yeah.
definitely am human and get very much stuck in that, like, is this the right decision? That perfectionism is, it's
Yeah.
something I deal with, but,
I
you
mean, what
know,
is perfection, right? I mean, there's so many of us struggle with that. It's like, what is perfection anyways? And is perfection even something that we can actually reach? Like, if you
right.
think about it, right? Because we are constantly evolving, we are constantly shifting, we are constantly improving. So to me, the idea of perfection, and this is how I've chosen to reframe it now in
Mm-hmm.
these wiser years, is I've chosen to reframe it as, well, perfection is kind of stagnancy,
Yeah.
right? Perfection is the same as stagnancy, because you're saying to yourself, well, things are absolutely perfect now, which leaves zero room for improvement and zero room for change. And
Right.
quite frankly, that's kind of boring.
No, I have way too much air in my chart to like stay in one place doing the same thing. I just double Gemini, like it's yeah, I need that change and I need that growth. And I feel like that definitely is something that that helps.
Yeah.
But like any other human with fear, I
Hmm.
get stuck. And especially as someone with who struggled with anxiety disorders and mental health,
Mm-hmm.
it's really easy to one get caught up in the tornado that can bring to my life if that's not
Hmm.
something that I'm managing and I'm taking care of. But also to lean on, like to use as a crutch, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I will fully admit that I've been the person to tell myself to have this story of like, well, I can't do these things and I can't help people and I can't be successful and whatever because there are these things about me that I deal
Mm.
with, or these are these experiences that I've had. And I mean, it's been a very long time since I've, told myself that story, but, and I actually haven't really thought about that in a long time until this conversation, but it's just that kind of bringing it back to perfectionism. Like, as long as you stay doing the same thing every single day, I mean, yeah, you can perfect whatever you're doing, but are you going to be happy?
Yeah.
I mean, and if so, then okay, that I don't think that that's wrong. I just, don't know how that would fit into reaching goals
Yeah.
and growing as a person. And um,
Well, it goes
mhm,
against human nature, which is to evolve. We're here to evolve and we're here to grow. So if you're choosing
mhm,
to stay stagnant, then you're actually going against what is your natural evolution.
yeah.
So we are nearing the end of this episode, and I know that you are an incredible resource for people who are dealing with mental health issues. And I know a lot of my listeners, they deal with anxiety, they deal with the effects of stress and overwhelm and depression, and they hide behind their laptops, and they post pictures and pretend like their life is okay while trying to be leaders. And yes, I'm calling all of you out. um, so how can they find you and connect with you and stock your stuff online?
Okay. So I have a website. It's www.nourishyourminds with an S at the end .com. And
And I'll
then
have all these links in the show notes, by the way. So they'll all
okay.
be there. Yeah.
And then I have Instagram. I have a Facebook. On my website is pretty much where you can find everything that I'm involved in, though. So I
Okay.
feel like that's a pretty good place to start.
Awesome. Okay. So, thought leaders, I will have those links in the show notes for you. Anna, thank you so much
Thank
for really bringing it today and sharing your vision with us and your purpose, and also, um, like what it's been like for you on this journey to bringing your vision into action, because I think that is super important to outline. We can all have a purpose, but those who take action on their purpose, in my eyes, are the most courageous. So thank you for modeling that.
Thank you. Thank you
And
so much for having me.
of course. And to our listeners, thank you so much for joining us on this special client feature on today's Thought Leader, where I'm challenging you to rise up, speak up, and create a movement. If you want to get in touch with either me or Anna about today's episode, please reach out on social media or on our websites. Be sure to tune in on Monday, where I'm going to be featuring another incredible client and thought leader who inspires me. If you're interested in learning more about the training that Anna is doing with me, please head to rubyfremont.com/unleashed. And while you're on the website, please make sure you check out my upcoming 3-day event in Los Angeles in February, Amplified Soul Live. This episode was graciously sponsored by the Mayfair Hotel and Eve American Bistro, which is home of Amplified Soul Live 2019. I will see you back here on Monday. We're taking a couple of days off. So on Monday for another special edition of Today's Thought Leader.